Hello friends. So recently the Forma Labs Audio team contacted me about their new plugin called Filament. So I checked it out and it's pretty unique and interesting. Let's look at the web page. So Filament is a real-time orchestration plugin for producers, for sound designers, for composers. So you can split chords, route voices, and play every instrument you own from one keyboard all at the same time. And it's 149 pounds currently. So here I have Filament loaded into Logic, and I've got 4 VSTs loaded currently. You can do up to 64, which I haven't done yet, but this is a good start here. So I've got like piano from Keyscape, strings from Kontakt, woodwinds from Kontakt, and a guitar from Omnisphere. And most of it is sort of around this routing matrix. So you can see I've got like Keyscape is going to all, and all means that any note you play on your keyboard, it's going to go through, it's going to pass it. If you select low, which I've selected for the guitar in this example, it's only going to be the low note. The lowest note on the MIDI coming in is going to go to that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it depends on how many notes you're holding at the same time. So for 5 to turn on, you have to have 5 notes held simultaneously. And mel is melody, so that's just going to be the top note of whatever you're playing is going to go through to that. So I'm just going to play this back now, which is my first example. Okay, so just in practical terms, if I hold one note on my MIDI controller, it's playing the piano and the guitar. And you can see, if I zoom in here, over here, these purple dots light up. And that's kind of your way to know what's going on. So if I go, you can see 3, 4, 5 is lighting up. I was only actually holding 3 notes, but it was going through to all 5, and I think that's to do with this section here. So I just wanted to look at the manual quickly and explain that, because I think that's really important to understand. So they call it intelligent chord revoicing. So smart filter off versus on. So the first thing to sort of learn is when it's off, it's direct finger to note control. So each note in your chord maps directly to an output in order. You use this when you want precise, predictable control over exactly which instrument plays which note. And then you've got the next mode, which is dynamic mode. And there's offset and fixed. It gets kind of complicated here. So in dynamic mode, voices adapt fluidly to what you play. The output range expands and contracts based on your input. And I think that's what was happening there. So it's going to actually like add more notes and double notes and revoice what you're playing to make it more interesting. And for orchestral composing, it's very useful. And then the last example is fixed mode. So fixed mode, voices stay within defined regions. This is ideal for instruments with specific comfortable ranges like brass sections or choir parts. And you can see here there's this part where, you know, it's limited in there, and then they've got, you can go outside a little bit, or it will go outside a little bit, it does it for you. So those are the 3 main modes of how the MIDI can be sort of manipulated. So I've just jumped over to my second example here, where I'm still using just 4 instruments. This one I've got strings, a boys choir, a full choir, and some brass. So in this example I'm using a multi-output, which means that in Logic I've got Filament on a main MIDI track here, and then it's actually outputting to all these separate tracks on the mixer, which makes it easier to, you know, if you want to add effects or EQ, compression, that kind of thing, on the individual outputs. So if I just want EQ on the boys choir, I can do that. So in these first two examples, it was just my first couple of days of using this, and you know, I started to get comfortable with the routing matrix, but then I started to think about, well, you know, there's got to be a way that I could limit the range on the input of a particular instrument section. So like if I've got cellos, I don't want the cellos to be playing the low notes or the high notes that get in the way of the violins and that kind of thing. And so I was looking at, you know, Kontakt and seeing if I could limit it that way. But if I had just read further into the manual of Filament, I would have learned that there's a lot more to that. You can kind of do anything you can imagine with this. It's wild. So in this one, I've got 6 instruments. So there's like a piano, bass strings, cellos, violas, violins, and woodwinds. And what's different now is you can see that on the matrix, all that there's going on here is the all to the piano. So, you know, where are all the other instruments on the matrix? I need to explain the key switching system first of all. So on the top left here, you've got KS1 and KS2, and you can have like a whole bunch of key switches. I can just drag this across and make like, I don't know how many, like 12, yeah. So let's go back to 2. So a key switch is kind of like a scene, and the whole thing, it still is going to maintain whatever instruments you have loaded in. So this doesn't change, but with the key switch, you can change things within the scene, like group certain instruments together and have a part of the song where the beginning just has like piano and violin, and then you key switch over to, you know, the full orchestra, that kind of thing, or all different variations of that, which is super cool. And at first I got a bit freaked out because you can see down here the key switch is at like that's an A 0 and B flat 0, I think. And I was messing around with the key switches on my MIDI controller, and I realized that I'd changed the articulation on one of the Kontakt instruments, like the brass was messed up or something. And that's because the key switches for Kontakt are actually down in this area, like C0 to G0, I think, is their range. So Filament very smartly designed this, that the key switches for their plugin doesn't interfere with the key switches from Kontakt. And I think that might be sort of standard across the board. Okay, so here's where it gets crazy. If you look down here, there's 8 input layers. And this is where you're able to change the range of what an instrument can receive. So I'm on input layer 1 right now, which has got the piano selected on the matrix. If I go to input layer 2, that's the bass strings, and they're on low, and they have this limited range of what they can play. So the low, I don't know where it is here, let's see. I'm on the piano only right now. Let's mute the piano. Yeah, so you can see lighting up down here. If I go to past that to like C sharp 3, it doesn't work. And the same thing if I go across to like input layer 3, you can see that I'm using one of the intelligent input modes here that's different from this one, which it's not on, it's turned off. And so within each input layer, those can all be set separately too. So you can start to understand there's like infinite possibilities of how you can route everything. And so, you know, through this number 4, so I've got 6 instruments and they've got 6 input layers, all independent. So each one has its own thing going on in the matrix. Actually, input layer 5 I've shared between the violins and the woodwind. So 6 instruments, but 5 input layers for this. The other interesting thing is like you see these plus 12s here. That means that what's going to the violins and woodwinds, once I hit a 5th note held, it goes up an octave, and that's how you can get that like huge orchestra sound, you know, when you need it. So I'm going to start by playing back what I actually input just on the piano to get some perspective on that, and then we'll flip over to the orchestra without the piano, and it should be fun. Okay, so you can hear that my piano's a little bit janky, my performance. And one of the things I saw in the videos about this, this input delay, increasing it like up more this way, it's going to be a bit more forgiving with your piano playing. So maybe you want to utilize that if you're like me. So I'm just going to now play the orchestra version of this. So the piano will be muted now. So yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm not really like an orchestral composer. I play guitar and sing for the most part. I play a bit of keyboard, but I can imagine if this got into the hands of somebody that can really play piano, some crazy stuff can happen. And I've also thought, you know, I didn't try it yet, but, you know, set it up with a bunch of different synthesizers and crazy bass sound and that kind of thing. Like, it's infinite soundscape possibilities with all these layers. So yeah, it's wow, what a fascinating plugin. I don't know how they came up with this idea, but it's got some magic. So that's all I got for today. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.